Ish, the 35th Doctor Who Big Finish main range release, first released on 4 parts across CD and download on the 29th of August 2002, and written by Phil Pascoe. Now, this is a story that involves the 6th Doctor, voiced once again by Colin Baker, and his companion Peri Brown, voiced by Nicola Bryant, and takes place somewhere after the events of Revelation of the Daleks, but before the trial of the Time Lord, as if that wasn't obvious enough. They end up at a kind of convention for lexicographers, kind of people who compile dictionaries. Basically, a big celebration of the English language. However, when one of the professors, Professor Osefa de Palabra Hitzburn, a name I've almost certainly mispronounced, so I'm sorry, she's voiced by Marie Colette, when she suddenly turns up dead in her office, seemingly via suicide, but her suicide note is written with a load of grammar inaccuracies and spelling mistakes, the Doctor and Peri realise that something isn't quite right, so end up looking around to try and figure out what's going on, with the help of a hologlyph assistant of the Professor named Book, played by Murray Treadwell. Meanwhile, also at the event, Peri ingratiates herself to a local logophile named Warren, played by Chris Eli. But they soon discover that something is going wrong with languages, and somehow words are being kind of strewed down, and eventually everybody starts maintaining the same word. Ish. 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 Just constantly repeating that over and over, because it turns out that there's a word that's known as the omniverbum. Yeah. It's supposedly the longest word in the known universe, so long, in fact, that it's infinite, like pi. But in order for it to maintain this itself, it has to consume other words and replace them with ish, to which the Doctor and Peri have to find out a way to stop it. Now, I will admit this is a story that I don't know if I get that much out of, but at the same time, it's fun to watch, fun to listen to, especially just listening to all these people suddenly struggle with their words, as any of us might do, and say, well, yeah, what it was like. It was kind of hellish, or I mean, it was all right, but it could have gone a little short-ish. I mean, it's definitely a word. It's definitely one of those ones. But I think one thing that I do like about this particular story is it does also contain another reference that I actually knew when I heard it. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. That was fun. To which the moment I'm talking about is when the Doctor is talking to a group of lexicographers and is asked to give a little speech, and then he kind of goes on a bit about a time he was with Dr. Samuel Johnson, the man who wrote the first ever dictionary back in the Georgian era. He says to him, yes, well, he was, and then he suddenly turned to me and said, "Sausage! Sausage!" And they stormed out in a huff, which is, of course, a reference to the Blackadder, the 3rd episode, Ink and Incapability, where the same thing happened with Samuel Johnson in that particular episode, where Samuel Johnson was played by Robbie Coltrane. To which Robbie Coltrane himself never actually got a role in Doctor Who, but that, I think, makes up for it in the fact that they're describing kind of that scene from Blackadder 3, and just, I personally laugh at that moment, and, you know what, I'm glad it's in there. But what they ultimately discover is that Warren, who, as I said, Peri kind of ingratiated herself to, he explains early on to Peri that he believes that language and words have the ability to kind of build us up or tear us down, but he turns out to be the main villain of this particular story, and he said that he wants to destroy languages, he wants to destroy kind of words in order to kind of bring us back to a more primitive form of communication with each other, and he's trying to use the ish to get that, and I'll admit the story in this particular serial gets a little complicated, and I'm not sure I can entirely follow along with it, but at the same time I kind of could. It's basically a story about language, and you know what, I think you'll enjoy it, even if it's just once through. I do think I prefer other Sixth Doctor stories to this, like While I will admit Nicola Bryant as Freddie Brown is a very good companion, I do kind of prefer Maggie Staples, Evelyn Smythe with number 6. But at the same time, Nicola Bryant's Peri Brown, she does fine here, and I think it's a story that you can at least listen to once through. I took a little break away from Big Finish, but now I'm back, and you know what? First story, not too bad. Anyway, what will be my next Big Finish story? I don't know yet, I'll have to wait and see. Till next time, salutations.